Namaste and a very good afternoon and a very warm welcome to yet another episode of Impact Leaders with Simply Suparnaa. I'm really, indebted to the platform of Sabera for making me, wise enough to understand the kind of work which is happening across the length and breadth of this country. And I remain in gratitude when I introduce my guest here today. But before I actually introduce him to you, I'd like to start by invoking the higher power. Shakti has held me in good stead. And this is an old Sanskrit verse talking about goddess Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom. And what it essentially is saying is remove the darkness of ignorance that resides in our hearts with the light of knowledge. Ya kundendu tushar haradhavala, ya shubhra vastravrita, या वीणावर दंड मंडित करा या श्वेत पदमासना या ब्रह्मचित्त शंकर प्रभूति भी देवैव स्वंदता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निशेष जाड्यपहा. Well, yesterday, the world over, we celebrated the Global Accessibility Day. And I couldn't think of anyone better than Arman Ali himself to be here interacting with us on this platform. A little bit of an introduction about Arman. He's the Executive Director of National Center for Promotion of Employment of Disabled People with over 2 decades in influencing legislations and policies for the empowerment of people with disabilities. Arman is a champion for disability rights in India. He serves in the advisory roles with the Election Commission of India, National Human Rights Commission, Ministry of Social Justice for Empowerment, just to name a few. Thank you so much, Arman, for taking the time for being here with us.
Thank you so much, Suparnaa. I think means a lot, and it's an honor to be in a chat with you, and always
And
fun.
you are, of course, surrounded by people right now. I think you're headed for a conference as we speak, but we've managed to snatch a
Yes,
little bit of time.
I'm part of this CII business summit, and just in the middle of that, I thought I should come out and for this important conversation with you.
Super. So, what does Global Accessibility Day mean to you?
The Global Accessibility Day, if you ask me, it means that when I don't have to talk about accessibility, that it's something which doesn't occur to me that today is a Global Accessibility Day, where any person with disability, irrespective of the kind of disability he or she may have, whether visual, intellectual, visible or invisible disability, is able to participate in anything, whether it's employment, whether it is education, whether it is participating into uh, a market or buying something or entertainment stuff, any products and services, without having to think twice. You are able to move out of your house, go to any place that you want to go, buy whatever you want to buy, any product, any services, and so on. So that's what accessibility would mean to me.
But do you think a lot of the large companies, let alone the small ones, are using it as a box to tick more than actually trying to create an impact?
I think there is an acute lack of awareness about disability, Suparna. So something and very if you just reflect when you come out of your house, do you see disabled people? I mean, you don't see disabled people in school, you don't see disabled people in colleges, you don't see them in the market, cinema hall, place of work, bank, anywhere you go. So something which you don't see, you don't understand, and something you don't understand, you neglect it or you avoid it, and that's how. When you talk of accessibility, it has remained a ramp for many. Just providing a ramp without getting into the details of what kind of standard one has to follow to make a ramp, and only a ramp or accessible washroom doesn't make your facility accessible, has remained not part of the discourse, because you don't see disabled people anywhere. When you want to hire people with disability, you don't find the kind of resource. So it remained a tick mark because of that, because ramp is what is understood, because the physical disability is you think is the only disability that exists, but it's a wide spectrum, and I think it's important that we put an effort to understand accessibility in particular, because accessibility is something which is needed by all. It is
Hmm.
not specific to a person with disability. Even a non-disabled person needs access to a public transport, access to a facility, access to, to be a part of any discourse, whether it is business, employment, or just trying to be a part of any event, or you want to buy any product or services. So access, imagine a building where you go and there is no staircase, there's only ladder outside. So I think access for people with disability means a little bit of adjustment here and there, but which is not a rocket science. So there is a need to have a larger discourse around accessibility need of disabled people, and the International Day for Accessibility is that's a purpose where you want to have a discourse, and we are talking about it now to create a little more awareness.
No, you're absolutely right, because something that we're not aware of, or at least is not in our frame of consciousness when we go out every day, we tend to not bother about it. I mean, it's a simple thing like even accessing a cinema hall. And I was having this conversation with Sangeeta Robinson of PVR, and how she has, with a concerted effort, actually created halls where people with disabilities can have access to cinema, or even in terms of just subtitling those films that are shown in the cinema halls. And I think you at the helm of affairs with NCPEDP, you've managed to do a lot, but we'll delve into that. I want to understand Arman the person. Where did you grow up? What were your influences like, and how is it that you got into this particular spectrum?
I am from Guwahati. I'm born and brought up in Guwahati, Suparnaa, and the biggest influence in my life is my family, my father in particular, and we are six brothers. So all my brothers are like friends. We are comrades, and they've never made me feel, my family, that I had any sort of disability. And my father was a great visionary, and he treated all of us, all six of us, with the same parameter, and ensured that I got education, and ensured that I was part of the family. I was part of everything that is happening in and around the family. I think that kind of the set of the fundamental in me, and being part of the family, you were included in every decision making. You're part of every celebration. Your brothers don't leave you when they go out to play. I think that played a very important role, and so all of us, are the same. It's not that I'm unique. All my brothers, my family, we are like the go-getters, and every day you wake up and you have the same enthusiasm to do whatever you're doing. So I think a lot matters when it comes to a person with disability or any other marginalized group where you need a little support. Family plays a very important role, and
So
and and what
when
I
you moved,
do.
yeah. So when you moved out from that nest that gave you all the security and never made you feel like there was something amiss, and you were out into the world, was that a jolt to you?
So somewhere, how do I say it, there are struggles, okay, irrespective of the family support. I dropped out of school twice. The second time I dropped out, it was in class 7. I've never went back to a school. I've never been to a college. So there are struggles. I've never been a part of a university or a classroom setup where I have attended class. I did have friends from you peers from your school and college. I'm homeschooled. I've done NIOS, National Institute Open School, and I dropped out in class 7 at a very tender age. I was about 13 years old, and started work early with my father with the family business. So there are struggles, okay. So family kind of rallies around you, makes you feel good. At least it's you something to fall back on. But when you go out in the world today, you have a PVR and a Sangeeta Robinson and a Deepa Menon talking about accessibility of cinemas. I didn't watch a cinema in a theater hall for more than 12, 13 years. It's because I knew that it's not accessible, and I was feel very uncomfortable going to cinema halls, because I used to walk with the help of a crutch in those days. and it gets you so much of attention from people just to go and watch a movie. You become a part of the movie itself. You become an amusement thing, and that kind of kept yours. You know, as we speak, only for accessibility, I still have a lot of problems. I was asked to get off a Uber cab in Chennai in 2019 just
Really?
because they
All
didn't.
that?
Yeah, yeah, to 2019, I think. Yeah. And just because they did not want, the cab driver did not want to put my wheelchair on the back seat. The wheelchair would not fit in the boot because it had a cylinder, and he thought that the wheelchair would spoil the seat of the car. they're
Wow.
happy they're happy to put any size of a baggage on your back seat, but not a wheelchair. So, and then I was
Wow.
asked to get off that Uber cab, resulting I missed my flight, which
Wow.
was from Chennai to Bangalore. I had to buy a new ticket, which was expensive. I missed my meeting and I reached very late in the night. So I think it keeps happening, and then I face multiple problem with airlines, despite the fact that I hold a important position in the disability sector. I know my rights. I'm able to articulate my thoughts. I'm able to
Sure.
articulate what I'm going to do. There's so much that you face. Even if you want to go to a restaurant, you want to go to a hotel, to a travel, you want to be a part of an event. It is everything is an afterthought.
Hmm. Hmm.
Airports, I mean, despite the fact that wherever we are, so much of privatization has happened. And these are not something which is free or discounted. If I'm flying paying the same fare as anybody else. If I'm in a
Sure.
five-star hotel or in a restaurant, it doesn't matter. I am paying whatever is the MRP or whatever the price that has been put for that service, but it
Hmm.
doesn't take you along. And this understanding, where and so, what is personal also becomes political. You see, the fact that you know India has the highest number of disabled people in the world. They and their families, they are they are consumers of all products and services. It's so if a product or a service which is accessible for person with disability, it is accessible for all, and it
Correct.
also brings you more business. At
Correct.
least 10 crore people in India are disabled people. And if you
Mm-hmm.
put three family members, that will take the number to 30 to 40 crore people. So today, if my family, we are about 18 people in our family, and if there is an occasion where the family is going out to eat, we go out to eat in a place which is accessible for me. So you give a business to that place. So if 18, 20 people are going to a place, we only choose a place where it is accessible. If you are going for a cinema hall, we'll go for a cinema hall which is accessible. Likewise, travel, any service that you do. Uh, the struggles are, you know, if you compare my struggle and struggle of anybody who's coming from a smaller town, it is unthinkable. You know, sitting in Delhi, can you even think of a place minus any five-star hotel where both of us can meet over a cup of coffee? I mean, international chains of running coffee shops don't have an accessible washroom. So I think if you look at disability inclusion only as optic, we are doing very well. That, like you're saying, the tick mark thing.
Yeah.
If you go out on the roads and
Yeah.
you see a pavements marked with that tactile tiles for visually impaired, who's using them? And you see it all over the city, and in multiple cities you'll see, but there is no training of staff. There is no discussion about these guidelines. Disability inclusion is not being part of a compliance. I think makes it an afterthought, makes it to be done as something which is cosmetic, and that kind of creates more discrimination, creates more barrier for people with disability to be the part of the mainstream society.
Arman, I'm going to ask a difficult question. I don't know if it's ever been addressed, or have you, kind of considered this as an impediment, because when we're talking about inclusion and when you're talking about a basic aspect of having an accessible bathroom even in a coffee chain, but the same coffee chain may have a gender neutral bathroom. I mean, is the conversation being diluted completely because of these new norms that the societies are evolving into?
So I don't know if it is diluting. You pick up the task which is easier for you to do first. So now I think for a gender neutral washroom, uh, one doesn't think of accessibility, and one doesn't think that a person who may be transgender or third gender may also be a person with disability. The good thing about disability that it does not discriminate with anybody. So anyone, irrespective of your caste, creed, gender, nationality, will get a disability, or there are people with disability in that sector. So if you are gender neutral washroom, and if it is not accessible, then you are not doing any good. This is not inclusion in a true sense of it. And I don't blame a lot of you know uh, how to say it, private sector or public sector people. It's just that is acute lack of awareness. um, Now if you reflect every document, everything that you see today, you see an IPL having a commentary in sign language, because somebody has taken that effort, and we work very closely with Ministry of Information Broadcasting, and 5 years of work has led to that. And then you figure out that it does not do any harm, it's good for the business. You add another 50 million people who are watching this game because you have included. Today you have, like PVR you mentioned when we started, it's not about only the physical infrastructure. Again, you see the Ministry of Information Broadcasting, Srikant was the first movie which had audio discrimination description. So I think it is small changes here and there. An audio description. If you're watching on OTT, and if you have the audio description on, and if you have maybe have gone to the kitchen to get coffee, you know what's happening in the background. It just says, it just describes that particular scene or an image. So this practices of inclusion, the fact that right now we are talking on virtually, because of inclusion, because somebody has thought about this, the same thing. This is called reasonable accommodation, and it does not discriminate based on your gender or your class. So, but the moment you bring in disability into the game, there is a lot of hiccups and thinking, and we are at a time, Suparna, that we need to look at disability beyond just a physical disability. People who have blood disorders, people who have mental health issues, people who have multiple disability. There are good days, there are bad days. And look at mental health. What is WHO saying? That every fourth person in the world has some mental health issue. So I mean, and then with
Yeah,
this present,
yeah.
in a couple of your times, we need more people who have to be, accommodated, reasonable accommodation, equal opportunity. These things has to be looked like a Bible. If
Mm.
you are doing business, and if your business, you want the business to be sustained and not cease to exist about after 20 years, if you don't start practice of inclusion in a true sense, it will not cease to exist.
Yeah, my association with NCPEDP, of course, started in 2020 when I think Javed Abidi Saab was posthumously awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award. And you were there also. His family was there to receive the trophy. And ever since, I think there has been, submission of the kind of work that you're doing. So, two things I wanted to ask from you. Of course, you've been also innovating and have a vantage point in trying to create a space for inclusion for people with disability. One is, I think, your Universal Design Awards are something which are, to reckon with. And I think also you have a fellowship program. So, can
Yes.
you tell us a little bit about both of these?
First, I'll tell you something personal. There's not a single day in my life, and particularly when I'm working, like you work most days, has passed without mentioning Javed Bhai. That's the kind of impact the man has made, and and his vision was very clear that youth with disability and youth of this nation are the change maker. We need to empower them, and they can really have change the whole country and make it more inclusive. And after his untimely demise, we decided to start a fellowship, and it's on one of its kind fellowship for youth with disability in the entire South Asia Pacific region, wherein we are identifying youth with disability between the age of 18 and 25 and building their capacity, and through them bringing out an evidence based narrative of people with disability from wherever they are. So I have 25 fellows from across the country, whether it is Kashmir, whether it is UP, or Jharkhand, or Madhya Pradesh, or Nagaland, or Shillong, across, from transport to health to employment to education to climate change. They're talking about everything. And I think this is what the future is. The future is of the youth, and we need to empower them. So to be very focused on that. Universal Design Award. I think one of the this year is the 15th edition of the Universal Design Award. So 15 years from now, I mean, ago, if you had the vision to create a country which is accessible for all, and it is accessible. An Universal Design Award is not based on a particular infrastructure or building. We recognize products, we recognize services, we recognize infrastructure, we recognize ministries, and we have already floated the application nomination form for this year award, and it is available on our website, and we have started to get nominations from across the board, private, public, and civil society organizations and individuals. One of the award we also give is the Javed Abidi Public Policy Award. So individuals and organizations, we have done exemplary work to promote inclusion of people with disability in terms of universal design into their product, service, or in policy making. We recognize them as well. So I think 15 years has made a lot of impact. Today you see there's an ecosystem being created for startup to provide assistive technology. You see an Accessible India campaign being launched by the government of India. A lot of initiatives are being taken. There's a lot of noise around disability, and accessibility is something is becoming non-negotiable for people with disability. They refuse to accept anything below 100% compliance of accessibility. There is a lot of question being asked every day. You look at the social media, there's somebody or the other asking a question about accessibility in products, services, infrastructure, and so on. So I think phenomenal work done by the entire NCPEDP team and our partners and the youth with disability across the country, my fellows, my team members. I mean, fantastic. I think it's such an honor to be part of this uh, organization, and the people I work with. I think it
And
doesn't
you
get
know
better
what?
than this.
Something that has remained with me is something that PG had shared with me, saying that any advancement in technology that has happened for an inclusion purpose. Things like Siri, things like how we have assistive technology through our mobile phones itself, which has now become so popular to the rest of the world. So I think this is also a kind of an impetus for designers, for innovators, for tech people, that I think if you are going to be in alignment, जिसको हम बोलते हैं कि आप अगर I come from a spiritual perspective, so I look at it from that angle, that अगर आप धर्म के रास्ते पे अगर आप चलेंगे तो naturally जो सृष्टि है वो आपको उतना ही बढ़ावा देगी, is what my experience has also taught me. Do you have anything to say about that?
True, I think it's anything which I said this in the beginning of our conversation, that anything which is accessible for people with disability is accessible for all. Today, when you go to a supermarket to buy a groceries, or there's a small ramp to for wheelchair users. Everybody uses it when they come out with their trolleys filled with whatever they shop, groceries and otherwise. If you look at services like in airport, which provides assistance to people who have elderly or arthritis or temporarily ill, you get a wheelchair service. It's been used by so many people who don't use wheelchair in their everyday life. So it's a service which is specifically made for people who have disability or certain form of mobility issue. But it's uses by everybody. It helps you go through the entire process. It's not only a mobility solution, but also helps you getting a check-in to a security to a immigration. So any facility which is being created for people with disability is friendly for all. Work from home, this is something people with disability have been demanding for 2 decades. And but when COVID happened, it became the norm in just a few days' time. So today, if you talk about flexible working hour, if you talk about accessible transport, it's been used by so many people.
True.
India is the world capital for diabetes. Every third Indian has is pre-diabetic or has diabetes. In West, it is recognized as one of the disability, and it comes with your own lifestyle challenges. So by 2030, what is the population of India, which will be over 60 years old? And when with age you get disability in your mobility, in your vision, in your cognitive way. Look at Parkinson's. Look at and the dementia. So you may think that these are something may not happen to me, but we all will get there.
Sure.
And if we
Sure.
create systems and process which is friendly for all, and without having to thumb your chest that I am doing this, and for the you're doing it for yourself.
Correct.
And
True
again, on
that.
a personal note, Suparna, you say that I am a disability
Champion.
champion. Yeah, I do it for myself. I'm not doing a favor to anybody. This is, you'll figure out, we're growing up. No, I didn't have a friend till I was 16, 17 year old. I didn't know what was going to a movie like, or eating in a restaurant, or going to a pub, or going to a bar, or shopping. You sit in a car and your friend or your brother will bring a shirt outside. Will you, what do you want to buy this? I said, yeah, you can. There's so much you go through, and for what? Just for your identity, for who you are. Is that a crime? And
Yeah.
that product or service or shirt that I wanted to buy was not free of cost. I wanted to pay for it.
Absolutely.
And we are not a
Absolutely.
second class citizen of this country. And so everything has to be the, we are taxpayer. We decide, who will form the government. We vote, we pay tax, indirect tax. Why it is not, when you build this nation, this great nation, why are disabled people being kept out of it? And I think this fight
Absolutely.
is personal as it is political.
And not just in India, the world over, we've seen, people on the wheelchair achieve amazing tasks for everybody. I mean, Stephen Hawking is a big example of how, he's contributed to the entire world. So it's no way that, inclusion is for a certain segment of people, and you rightly put it, it's for everybody, essentially. And everybody is going to make use of the good practices that will be employed, hopefully, in the near future. And we don't have to have this discussion. I mean, that is something that I normally always talk about with policy influencers, saying that the best thing that can happen to you is for you to go out of job, I guess. That's what it is. It's not required anymore. On that note, I think we'll wrap this up. I apologize for all the outages, but of course we will concisely edit this and put it across again. Arman, any parting thoughts from you?
Sparna, thank you so much. I think it's I don't know how do I say it. Today being the 28th foundation day of NCPEDP and me talking to you, it coincided and not planned. And today through you, I'm able to document this. I'm able to put it on record. Everybody who has helped NCPEDP, who has helped the National Disability Network and disabled people, that effort to include people with disability in the mainstream. My gratitude from the entire team, my gratitude to you, and I seek everyone to support NCPDP, to support people with disability. Disability needs investment, and with all of us coming together, we'll make it impossible for people to ignore disability.
Thank you so much, and we won't hold you back for your important conference now. And more power to you and to NCPEDP. Take care
Thank you
and
so
God
much.
bless.